You walk into a room and see them, a small group of people laughing, completely engaged in a story you haven't heard. Your heart starts beating a little faster, and in your mind, a huge wall suddenly appears between you and them. So, what's the secret to breaking into that circle without feeling like an intruder? Hi everyone, I'm your host Sarah, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are exploring a skill that can be truly life-changing: how to join a conversation that has already started. And, of course, along the way, we'll learn some fantastic and natural English together. Let's be honest, for many of us, this situation can be incredibly intimidating. That word, intimidating, means something makes you feel frightened or nervous. For example, the new job was intimidating at first. It's this feeling that often stops us from even trying. We stand on the sidelines wanting to connect but feeling completely frozen. We start to overthink everything. What if I say something stupid? What if they just ignore me? What if I interrupt them at the wrong moment? This internal monologue can be paralyzing. By the way, an internal monologue is the conversation you have with yourself inside your head. For example, my internal monologue was telling me not to be nervous. So, this voice in our head often wins, and we miss the opportunity to connect with new people. It's a universal feeling, this fear of being the outsider. We are social creatures, and we have a deep need to fit in. The phrasal verb fit in means to feel that you belong to a particular group and are accepted by them. For example, it's sometimes hard to fit in when you move to a new city. This desire to be part of the group is exactly why the fear of rejection feels so powerful. But what if I told you that joining a conversation is a skill, not a magical ability that only some people have? It's something you can learn and practice. The first step, and this is the most crucial one, is to change your perspective. You aren't interrupting. You're participating. You aren't a stranger. You're a potential new friend or colleague. This mental shift is where everything begins. It sets you up for success. The phrasal verb set up means to prepare or arrange something for a particular purpose. For instance, they set up the room for the meeting. So, let's break down the practical steps. Before you even think about speaking, you need to observe. Think of yourself as a detective for a minute. Your first job is to listen carefully and figure out the topic and the mood of the conversation. Are they talking about work? A recent movie? Are they joking and laughing, or is the conversation more serious? This is often called reading the room. Read the room is a wonderful idiom that means understanding the emotions and unspoken feelings of the people in a specific situation. For example, he could read the room and knew it was not the time to ask for a raise. As you listen, pay close attention to the body language of the group. Body language is the way you show your feelings with your body, not with words. For example, her body language showed that she was very confident. Are they standing in a tight, closed circle, or is it more open and relaxed? An open circle is often a non-verbal invitation. It suggests that new people are welcome to join. Once you have a good sense of the topic and the group's energy, you need to find your entry point. This is the key moment where you can smoothly enter the conversation. Don't try to force it. Instead, you need to look for a natural pause. This is a moment when someone finishes a thought, or when the energy of the conversation naturally dips for a second. It requires patience. Rushing in can make you come across as aggressive. The phrasal verb come across means the impression you give to other people. For instance, he comes across as a very serious person. When you see that small opening, your own body language becomes really important. Don't just stand silently beside the group. That can feel awkward for everyone. Instead, take a small step closer and try to make eye contact with one of the speakers. To make eye contact means to look directly into someone's eyes. For example, it's important to make eye contact during an interview. A simple, warm smile at this stage can do wonders. It signals that you are friendly and interested. But just observing and smiling isn't enough, is it? Sooner or later, you have to actually say something. This is where most people hesitate. The word hesitate means to pause before you do or say something, often because you are nervous or not sure. For example, she hesitated for a moment before answering the question. But don't worry, you don't need to say something brilliant or incredibly witty. In fact, simple is often much better. Let's explore 3 simple and effective strategies for your first sentence. The first is the open-ended question. This is a question that requires more than a yeses or no answer. Let's say you overhear them talking about a recent trip to the mountains. You could wait for a pause, smile, and say something like, "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear you talking about the mountains. That sounds amazing. Where did you go?" This is effective because it's relevant and it shows you were listening. The word relevant means connected with what is happening or being discussed. For example, please only share information that is relevant to the topic. Another great strategy is to make a relevant comment and then ask a question. This adds your own thought before passing the conversational ball back to them. For example, if they're discussing a new restaurant, you could say, "I've heard great things about that place. The pictures of their food look incredible. What did you think of it?" This approach validates their conversation and invites them to share more. It feels collaborative, not intrusive. The third technique is perhaps the simplest of all, agreement. Sometimes, all you need to do is find a point you genuinely agree with. You can nod, and when there's a small pause, look at the person who just spoke and say, "That's a really good point," or "I completely agree with that." By the way, genuinely means truly or sincerely. For example, "I was genuinely surprised by the news." After you agree, you can follow up with a short question like, "What made you think of that?" This shows you are on the same page. The expression "on the same page" means to have a shared understanding or to agree about a situation. For instance, before we start the project, let's make sure we are all on the same page. The common thread here is that you are not trying to take over the conversation. You are not trying to be the center of attention. Your goal is simply to join in. The phrasal verb join in means to participate in an activity with other people. For example, the music was so good that everyone joined in and started dancing. Your first contribution should be a bridge that connects you to the existing discussion. Now, what happens after you've spoken your first line? The most important thing is to listen to the response. Show that you are interested. Nod, smile, and keep your attention on the people who are speaking. This positive feedback encourages them to include you. If the conversation continues and you are now part of the circle, congratulations, you did it. You can relax a little and just let the conversation carry on naturally. To carry on is a phrasal verb that means to continue doing something. For example, "Please carry on with your work while I make a phone call." Of course, it doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes a group is having a very private or intense conversation, and it might not be the right time to join. If you try one of these techniques and the group doesn't seem responsive, don't take it personally. It's likely not about you at all. Just smile, take a step back, and look for another opportunity. The key is not to get discouraged. Every attempt is practice. I think one of the biggest mental blocks is the fear of having nothing to contribute. We feel like we need to be an expert on the topic, but that's simply not true. It's perfectly okay to say, I don't know much about that, but it sounds really interesting. Could you explain it to me? People often love to explain things they are passionate about. This vulnerability can actually be a very powerful tool for connection. Being vulnerable means you are in a state where you are open to being emotionally or physically hurt. But in this context, it means being open and honest. For example, it's hard to be vulnerable and share your feelings. So let's put it all together. The next time you find yourself in that situation, standing outside a conversation, I want you to try this. Take a deep breath. A deep breath is when you take a lot of air into your lungs. People often do it to relax. For instance, he took a deep breath before he started his speech. Just breathe, and then start observing. Listen for the topic. Watch the body language. Wait for that small, natural pause. Then, you just have to bite the bullet and go for it. Remember, bite the bullet is an idiom that means to make a decision to do something that is difficult or unpleasant. For example, I decided to bite the bullet and finish all my homework. Choose your approach. A simple question, a relevant comment. Smile, be genuine, and see what happens. You might be amazed at how a simple, well-timed sentence can open up a whole new world of connection. It's a skill that gets easier and easier the more you do it, until one day, it's not scary at all. It just becomes a natural part of how you interact with the world. I hope these ideas have been helpful. Joining a conversation might seem like a small thing, but these small moments of connection are what make our social lives richer and more enjoyable. It's about being brave enough to take that first small step. If you enjoyed exploring this topic with me and want to keep discovering more about fascinating subjects like psychology, real stories, and science, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We post new episodes regularly to help you master English while learning about the world. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the next one.